All these people do is recycle the same narratives that you get on CNN and MSNBC. And in many ways, ESPN itself has transitioned.
I want to read a couple of excerpts from the column you wrote yesterday that I thought were
Sure.
powerful. One, ESPN and other corporate media outlets think that they are a moral compass when they are actually cultural weather vanes. I thought that was great. Later in the column, you say ESPN epitomizes everything that is wrong with corporate media today. It is a calculating behemoth that regurgitates whatever narrative has been approved by the ruling class. And then lastly, there is a certain comfort in the warmth of the crowd that can quickly morph into a consuming fire of cowardice. I think those three things all kind of wrap and tie together. Elle Duncan thinks she's showing integrity, being a moral compass, courage, and really what she's doing is joining the crowd and being a coward and preaching a lack of responsibility and immoral behavior that won't take a person to a better place. It actually leads to their demise, gives them these emotional scars that can damage them for the rest of their lives. But this whole thing of ESPN and people like Elle Duncan, I'm the moral compass, and really you just got your finger in the air and you're going with the wind.
Exactly, and this extends beyond abortion, and I sort of talk about Elle Duncan and her abortion stance on the backdrop of, the transgender issue, right? ESPN does not allow anything other than complete affirmation when it comes to the issue of men and women's sports. So they will do puff pieces on Leah Thomas. At its best, they will give sort of, straight across the board coverage and say, Leah Thomas won the NCAA championship. But when they start to editorialize this, it's all affirmation. And they even got a they-them reporter to sit down with Leah Thomas and paint him as if he's the new Jackie Robinson. So it's one of these things where there are millions of girls crying out across the country for people like Elle Duncan to stand up for them and to say, hey, we don't like having to take a back seat to these men or these boys in our sports. Can you speak up for us? And the worldwide leader in sports has completely abdicated that role, right? They don't speak for the voiceless. They speak for the regime. They speak for the ruling class. And whatever the ruling class says is sort of the standard line, whether it's the personal pronoun stuff, whether it's if you don't have a certain testosterone level or if you're not on this hormone for this period of time, then it's okay. That's exactly what ESPN is going to repeat. And remember, Jason, it's not just the trans stuff in sports. Elle Duncan is the same person who took to the airwaves during the halftime of a women's NCAA basketball game, which no one was watching, and said that ESPN is going to have a moment of silence to stand in solidarity and an allyship with our, corporate colleagues at Disney over the quote unquote "Don't Say Gay" bill, which was really about parental rights in education. And when they came back from the break, I think it was South Carolina and Howard, it was like 44-4. That was the score. The two women on the sportscast, they read out whatever came down from corporate. One of them, you could tell she was reading it because she was sort of stumbling over the words. And it was one of these things where it's just like, all these people do is recycle the same narratives that you get on CNN and MSNBC. And in many ways, ESPN itself has transitioned. I mean, this is a network that when it started was about sports, right? You could feel the masculine energy in this network. And over the years, like Caitlyn Jenner, the network has slowly sort of begin to quote unquote transition. And now it's at the point where it thinks that it's a political network, right? It's like MSNBC plus sports. And they have some of the least qualified people there to read the scripts that come from corporate. And it's a sad thing to see because on the issues that actually involve sports, right? Biological women who are complaining about men in the pool and on the track, ESPN is silent. And then they have the brass to celebrate Title IX and talk about the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and then turn around the next day and say, we think men should be in women's sports, which again reflects the position of this current administration that is looking to expand Title IX protections so that quote unquote transgender athletes can compete according to their gender identity. So in every way you define it, ESPN is the epitome of calculated corporate cowardice. And I think it was about time that somebody said that.
You know, and I got to let you go. I'm running out of time, but I want to end on this note. ESPN is like a big pharmaceutical company. They're the Pfizer of sports, and they're passing out biblical blockers. And it's that left-wing ideology that's a biblical blocker that they're giving to athletes and broadcasters, and it's everything to do to stunt and block your biblical worldview development so that you can embrace this secular world and everything, all the chaos and immorality and death and violence and destruction that goes along with it. Elle Duncan, a pharmaceutical rep for biblical blockers for ESPN. Thank you, Delano.